So, Atomic Kitten's Natasha joins Mark Lamar for the Buzzcocks tomorrow night at 10 here on BBC Two. And I guess it's just a question of taste as to whether or not you think she's a good or bad example of one of God's creations.
The Bible tells us that God created the heavens and the earth in just 6 days. Impressive stuff, considering it took an estimated 3 years to create Miss Congeniality 2, starring Sandra Bullock. In the space of under a week, God managed to come up with a truly stupendous collection of design classics, a feat which, to my knowledge, still remains unsurpassed. So, what are the best and the worst bits of the natural world? It is, of course, an impossible question to answer, but today I intend to make the impossible possible by delivering my verdict upon the Creator's creations. Are waterfalls better than chickens? What's worst, a wasp or the smell of fish? Who would win in a fight between a tree and a whale? In this Olympics of creation, who will hold aloft the golden medal, and who will stroll away with the wooden spoon? To help me reach my decision, I've sought the thoughts and advice of numerous illustrious advisors.
I've seen a giraffe and it's just gobsmacking.
All sperm should be the size of trout.
The potato is one of the things that makes me believe there might be a god.
Dog shit and human vomit mixed up in a cup.
Is a fly an animal? Can I have a fly?
Just occasionally shut up for a bit.
I don't like to listen to people urinate.
The smell of a newborn baby.
Garlic bread, because it's taken the nation by storm, hasn't it?
Life doesn't get more depressing than being administered a low-quality handjob.
Every anus is different. They're as different as snowflakes.
Cooked salmon. I'd rather go and apply for housing benefit than eat that stuff.
It looks like a kind of PE kit that's been left in the showers.
A whale's penis is the size of the post office tower.
Oh! Oh! Oh!
We rely on animals to provide us with food, clothing and companionship. But what makes the best animal? Should the best animal be judged on usefulness, intelligence or looks? As for the worst animal, the great white shark may seem fearful, my friends, but it's the common housefly that is more deadly to the human race because of the diseases it carries. The jellyfish is 95% water, which makes it more of a drink than an animal. And then there's the wasp. The wasp. The bully of the insect world, whose sole purpose seems to be to promise pain and ruin picnics.
The best animal is the whale, partly because it's been around for thousands, millions of years longer than we have, but principally because whales are so ridiculously big. They're ludicrously large, and this means you can generate all sorts of wonderful statistics. You know, I was told that a whale's tongue is the size of a double-decker bus, that the rest of them you can just make up. You know, a whale's penis is the size of the post office tower.
Whales may be big, but in terms of the animal kingdom, is bigger necessarily better?
God's greatest animals are the champion animals with the rosettes. They're the best.
Best animal, I would say, is the swan, because a swan can break your arm, but it doesn't, and I think that shows remarkable restraint.
I nominate the tortoise. How great is that creature? It lives forever, doesn't eat much, very cool and very mellow, carries its house on its back. Come on! If that's not a recipe for a good idea for the homeless problems in this country, I don't know what is.
Hello. Does look a little peaky. The best thing we can do is to oxygenate his blood immediately.
What's that?
It's compressed air.
Now, my favourite animal is quite an unusual choice. It is the okapi, and from behind, its back looks exactly like the legs of a kind of quite attractive woman wearing zebra print trousers. It seems weird that an animal would be created with that kind of perfect, attractive body. And I think, I think it's just to look at. I think if you go any further than that, you've entered a realm that God won't be pleased with.
Well, in my view, it's the guinea pig, because it's not afraid to establish and maintain eye contact.
I've seen a giraffe and it's just gobsmacking. It's an incorrectly designed animal. It's too tall, it's too high, it's got those nodules. Something to do with electricity, I presume, or whatever, but...
Dolphins are generally thought to be one of the most intelligent animals on the planet. But one lady believes they hold an even greater power, the power to heal the sick with sonar. Meet Delphiris, the world's #1 dolphin fan. So, Delphiris, what is it about dolphins? What gives them the power to cure an illness?
It's not so much that the dolphins actually cure, they're actually facilitating to access the healing abilities we have as human beings within ourselves to do the healing process.
And you say that you, because you were swimming with dolphins, you received some of that yourself?
Yes.
So you can use it?
Yes, yes.
But you haven't got sonar, so how do you use your dolphin powers?
If I can just show you what I would be doing. Let's say you have any imbalance on your shoulder, you have got a stiff shoulder.
Yeah.
I would be using my sound, very similar like the dolphins do, in that sort of way. So I'm sending out the vibration of the sound onto your body, obviously. That's just another second I showed you.
Dolphins have a much wider sound range than humans, don't they? So they can go way beyond and way below.
Yes.
So you're just working within that small area in the middle?
Obviously, that's what I can only access.
Perhaps in the future, our hospitals will be full of dolphin doctors dashing about in casualty, removing pans from people's heads with their sonic humming. For now, they are simply another contender for God's greatest animal. But who are the challengers for his worst bestial creation?
My least favourite animal is the squirrel.
The worst animal, I don't know if it is an animal because it's a bird, but I'm linking it with that, is the chicken.
Only a rat can elicit a noise from you. Like if you see a rat, you just make a sort of involuntary noise.
Biscuits. Would you care for a rat? Just the biscuits then, please, Polly.
It's got to be the cat, the domestic cat. Cats wait until you've got food and then they get up on the same level as your food and show you their anus.
I don't like... Is a fly an animal? Can I have a fly?
They buzz and they just... and I know that they walk on shit, eat, vomit to make the food digestible and suck back up that vomit. And I'm sorry, anything that eats back, it's vomit. They just, yuck.
Crapped on any good food lately?
Well, I had to go on the sugar bowl, you know.
Well, it's always out, isn't it?
It's always out. It's always out.
What I say is, if it's out, crap on it.
What is the only animal that is violent for pleasure? Man. What is the only animal that eats its own young? Man. What is the only animal that carries out credit card fraud? Man. Man is... He is an animal, and he is the worst animal. And that is... A lot of people don't think that. They just think, oh, a shark. But you have to look at the... You have to try and look at the question in a wider way than that.
With so many evil creatures to choose from, I needed the advice of an expert. So I travelled to the Natural History Museum in London to pick the brains of TV zoologist Nigel Marven.
Most people hate flies.
Yeah, I think insects, because they're not like us, you know, 6 legs, spiders have got 8 legs, you know, but of course they are like vultures, nature's garbage collectors, and if there weren't flies, there'd be all dead corpses all around the place because the maggots are so superb at feeding on dead flesh. And crucial, of course, in many forensic science cases, you know, if they find a body, after 24 hours, a pathologist has no idea how long the body's been there for, but entomologists can tell by the stage of the maggots how long it's been there for.
No, right. So, moving on now to rats. Does anyone like rats apart from young goths and Parisian students?
The thing about it is, I mean, they're exactly the rodent equivalent of humans. They're entrepreneurs, they eat anything, they're very adaptable, and those are the sorts of animals that are going to survive if we destroy the planet.
What's the most dangerous animal in the world?
People think of crocodiles, they think of lions. Hippos are the most dangerous land animal in Africa, but by far more people are killed by mosquitoes than anything else. Mosquitoes are the most dangerous animal on the planet. They frighten me, mosquitoes.
But not as dangerous as to wipe out the whole planet?
No, the only animal that can do that is us humans.
So, flies, rats, squirrels, chickens, domestic cats and humans are all pretty unpopular. Flies may walk on shit, but as Nigel Marven pointed out, humans are the only species that could wipe out everything else, so we must be worse. Yes, man is the worst animal on the planet. In the running for best animals are swans, tortoises, whales and giraffes for their design, okapis for their attractiveness, and guinea pigs for their starey eyes. Dolphins may be the most intelligent, but we're not clever enough to know that yet. So from a human point of view, the best animal is man. So our first category ends tonight in victory for man as God's greatest animal. But it's not all good news, because we are also God's worst creation. In the beginning, man smelt of sweat and excrement. But then we whiffed the trees and the flowers and the oceans and thought, they smell good. And so we developed scented soaps and perfumes to allow us to smell like vanilla and bergamot, coriander, jasmine, and mango chutney. Nowadays, everything smells of something else. Our toilets smell of pine forests. Our dishes smell of apples and oranges, and our estate agents, they smell of freshly baked bread and coffee. But what are the most powerful pongs on the planet?
Best smell in the world is fresh cut grass.
The smell of oil.
Oh, it's got to be smell of man. Yeah, I do. Give me some good, honest working, hard working sweat. Not this, I'm just stink and I don't understand how a shower works. I'm talking about, I've been digging the road, babes, because I need to do this hard job for you. I've been paving the patio, I've been painting. I stink.
The atmosphere here hangs heavy like a big smell. The smell of men together, the smell of cat's musk. Bob Mariner, you missed the penalty. Why?
Yeah, Alan, it was a bad one. It took the top of my boot. It was all over in an instant.
You look really stupid.
Yeah, it wasn't a good performance. I'm going to try and take a shower now.
Right. Must smell.
Poo. Not dog poo, any human poo, I think. There was one time I went to the local playground and there was a huge poo on halfway down a slide, and you could tell by the trail that it hadn't done it at the top and it had slipped down. He'd gone halfway down the slide and done it there. Huge. And it could have been a dog, but what dog in its right mind would climb up a slide? And I just thought, why? Why did I do that?
It's a smell that I've mentally conjured, and it's dog shit and human vomit mixed up in a cup.
Of course, my special skill is I can tell any animal by its stools. Whatever animal's done this, it's got a tummy upset and worms. But I'd stake my trousers on it. Yeah, that's Rex, that one.
The shit of a baby that's begun to eat meat. Oh, I think I might have done one, Denise. Have a smell.
I'm not sure. Man. Oh.
Oh, yeah. You find a smell that is like a dying tramp's vomit, is the only thing I can think of. It's like a tramp is dying or has died, and he's vomited, and his guts have come out, and he's rotting.
Are you going to start changing the nappies, Denise?
No way. It smells of shite.
To find out more about the world of smell, I met Professor Tim Jacobs, who has researched some of the worst odours known to man.
Tim, are you in there?
I am.
Well, look, we're here in the public toilets, and a lot of people have said that they think the worst smell that they can imagine is that of human excrement. What do you think of that?
Well, it's a bad smell, but it's certainly not the worst of all smells. The US Defense Department has actually been trying to create a weapon, a smell weapon, and the smell of human excrement formed a part of that weapon, but it also included the smell of vomit and some other choice and unpleasant substances.
But you say it's not the worst smell in the world?
No, it's not the worst smell in the world.
What is that?
Well, I'll give you an example. One of the most powerful smells in the world is produced, or one of the smells produced by the skunk. It's called methyl mercaptan, and it's included in gas so that we can smell gas leaks. Now, you can detect half a teaspoon dispersed in a volume the size of the Royal Festival Hall.
What is this? What comes out of skunks?
Yeah.
And what is that? Have you smelt that smell?
I have indeed, and it is extremely unpleasant.
Tim, are there any gender differences, like between men and women, as to who smells differently or who's a better sniffer?
Yeah, well, in almost all tests, women outperform men regarding the sense of smell. Women's sense of smell peaks at ovulation, which is when they're at their most fertile. So at that time, they can sniff out the best potential mate.
And what's the finest smell in the world?
What's the most pleasant?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's something really, it's a very, very personal matter. I mean, I've often found it quite difficult to make the case for any sort of biological significance of good smells. They don't really aid in our survival, whereas you can see clearly how being able to detect bad smells would help us survive.
In the running for best smells are grass, oil, diesel, men and babies. But it's oil that holds a special attraction for me, as it reminds me of my primordial past. It's the very essence of our being, from whence we sprang and where we shall end. Melted down into organic matter and reused by our descendants to power their futuristic tractors. We have a fine-smelling list of the worst smells: human stink, fart, shit, vomit and baby poo. But it's excrement and sweat and any other nefariously produced odour from humans that's got to be the worst. Human stink stinks. So, my top of the pongs on the whole of this planet is lovely smelling oil, and the worst smell? It's all those ungodly bodily expulsions made by us humans. The recipe for making a new life is a classic. You take one man and one woman, ideally let them flirt for a while and fall in love before setting themselves loose on each other for a spot of rampant lovemaking. Sit back and wait for 9 months for your brand new bundle of joy. By common consensus, this is a great idea, but what are the best and the worst parts of this mind-blowing journey?
Nature, Brother Gregory. Is there any greater proof of God's munificence? How complex are his works, Brother Gregory? How complex. The veins of a leaf, the filigree pattern of...
Someone's thrown a Johnny in the river.
Are they?
Have
I like snogging. I think snogging's very good.
I think kissing is the nicest, most enjoyable thing about sex. Even as you get older, it continues to have quite an amazing thrill, and one that seldom involves you wanting to kill yourself the next morning after it's happened.
Unexpected sex. It only happened to me once, but you live in hope.
These days, it's very fashionable among young people to do what I'm doing now. I'm being filleted by a young girl known as a groupie. It's an interesting feeling and certainly quite relaxing.
It's all the build-up into the anticipation. Putting on your pyjamas, going to the bathroom, brushing your teeth, combing your hair. It's lovely. Might listen to the radio. I've got a little portable radio next to my toothbrush.
From a man's point of view, the best thing about sex is the erection. The ability to get an erection that tells a young man, 14, 13, that he's a man. It tells you that your body is responding in the correct way, that your blood is flowing and that you are alive, and that you are ready to pass on your juice to the next generation.
Oh, pretty. Touch you there.
The best thing about sex, I think, is the moment that you look into someone's eyes and you both know that very shortly you'll be having sex. Almost the anticipation is almost greater than the slightly ludicrous configuration of limbs that constitute sex.
For many, one of the greatest things about the procreation process is the bit where we fall in love. I was curious as to precisely why it made us feel so good, so I arranged a rendezvous with TV psychologist and love expert Tracy Cox.
A lot of people have said that the best thing about sex is the build-up to it, the leading up, the meeting someone, you know, chatting.
The chase.
The chase up to the moment, and then maybe that might be a disappointment.
Well, it can be, can't it? But I mean, honestly, the best thing about, about sex is that it basically isn't about genital stimulation, it's about the brain. I mean, the brain is the biggest erogenous zone. There's a phrase called love junkie, where people fall in love with being in love. And that's because in the first, 6 to 8 months, we are infused with all drugs like serotonin, dopamine, that make us feel like we're on a constant high. And I think that is one of the best parts of a relationship, love and sex, where you just walk around floating and feeling like you're in heaven. You literally are on cloud 9.
So to recap, the best thing about sex is the attraction of two people.
Well, the minute you set eyes on somebody, you already know whether or not you're attracted to them, because we've already got little lists in our head of people I fancy and people I don't fancy that we've been collecting in our brains since birth. It's all to do with who's nice to you and who's not. Then what happens is touch, smell. The first time you kiss, it's almost like a biological business card. The DNA mixes in your mouth, and sometimes, Mother Nature go, no, they will not produce good children at all. Just wrong combination. And you'll pull back and you think, oh my God, what went wrong there?
So you could fancy someone,
like mad,
kiss them, and there's a rejection slip.
And it's all wrong.
Just the mess, the blood, the spit, smell, the laundry bills.
As a young lad, when at the bra removing class, I was always bottom. I can't do it, I have to basically, I'm sorry, I would like to remove your clothes seductively to the sound of Barry White, but unfortunately, I'm really hopeless at unbuttoning the things, and I don't quite know where that clip goes. The whole thing's going to just turn into a sort of like an embarrassing jumble sale.
Simon said, and now they've got to take the bras off from the front. This is really difficult. This is really the most difficult part of the entire competition. My God, they're having a bit of trouble.
Life doesn't get more depressing than the disappointment that comes with being administered a low-quality handjob, because it's such a rare occurrence in my world, anyway, that when it starts to happen, you think, yippee! It's handjob time. This is brilliant. I love handjobs. Can't remember the last time I had one. And then you realise, oh no, it's going to be rotten. because it's so violent in the wrong way. Kind of the person is not skilled, or they've been told a bad technique, or some rough man has said, the rougher the better.
The worst thing about, I think it probably is childbirth. What a terribly bad bit of design that is.
Darling, I don't know if this is a good time to mention breathing exercises.
Steve!
Yes, darling?
Get me a fucking epidural!
This is directly God's fault. You can read this in the Bible, because he increased pain in childbirth. There was going to be a bit already, but because Eve ate the apple in the Garden of Eden, he blamed her for some reason, and as a punishment increased pain in childbirth. I think if they're going to do that, they should make all sperm should be the size of trout. And then when men ejaculate, they would have the same, everything else is the same.
It would appear that the act of giving birth is way out in front in the race to become the worst part of the miracle of life. Sheila Kitzinger would disagree. She writes and lectures on natural childbirth and thinks we're just doing it all wrong. So a lot of people I've been talking to say that the worst part of sex is childbirth. What do you say to that?
Well, no, I think it's one of the best parts when it can take place spontaneously, because you see, the same hormones are released in childbirth as in happy sex.
Yeah.
That is, the sex steroids, estrogen and progesterone.
Yeah.
And they make you feel very excited, and it's this which really can make of childbirth a feeling of, I don't know, glorious victory, triumph.
Yeah. Why is it that women give birth in the missionary position?
I think that it's much more convenient for obstetricians to be able to get right up between a woman's legs, and to be able to poke and probe and manipulate.
Yeah.
They've got to where they want them then.
So how should we give birth then? What's the most natural way?
Well, I think the best way is to follow women's instincts. And most women want to be upright, moving around, able to swing their pelvis, knees bent, crouched. Can I try this tree? I'll show you.
Yeah. Shall I do it as well?
Yeah, you can. Trees are very good for this. The breathing isn't push, push, push. Come on, mother, you can do better than that.
Yeah.
Come on, push, push, push. It's this. Contraction starts. And wait for it. Here it is.
Ooh!
Only I usually don't do it with a hat on.
In the running for the best part of the miracle of life are kissing, snogging, the anticipation and preparation of the whole process. The best part has to be the feeling we get. The scientific name is butterflies. It's the knowledge that soon we might become someone's favourite, with a view to procreation. Undressing in front of a new partner can lead to applause, or, as in my case, laughter and mockery. But it can't be as bad as giving birth. Perhaps, as Sheila Kitzinger suggests, we're just doing it wrong, but judging by the screams I've heard, the worst part of the miracle of life has to be giving birth. So, the best bit of the whole mating process is definitely the butterflies of young love. And the worst is the crackpot design of childbirth. Sounds exist to help man negotiate the natural world. We can hear the roar of a lion and take cover in a bush, or use the tinkle of a stream to guide us to water or a toilet. Although many sounds in the world today are man-made, God has provided us with an orchestra of natural sounds to choose from. There's the crash of waves on the shore, the crunch of snow underfoot, the thwack of birch on skin.
It's a bit cheesy, but I think it probably have to be children laughing. I quite like, thanks for saving our village. Called at you. You're walking away from the village, and you saved them, and you're about a mile away, but you still hear somebody, thanks Because something cold from a distance away and you can still make out the words is a gem.
I think the best sound in the world is the fart, because it wouldn't have worked if it was a nice sound. If you'd have laughed the first time and then gone, no, it's boring, but because it's so funny, it will never stop being amusing.
I'll get me coat. The best sound is the swish of cagoule. In fact, I've written a song about it. The swish of cagoule, boy, it makes me drool. The zup of a zip does the trick. The flap of a tent brings me merriment. I can't remember the last line. But camping noises, basically.
The best sound in the world is running water, I think. To me, it indicates the passing of water and relief and tranquility, so I like water.
Are you talking about urination?
That's one of the... I mean, I don't like to listen to people urinate, but I like, possibly subconsciously, the linkage between water and relief, bladder relief. Is that wrong?
Don't kill me, I've got so much to give. Don't kill me, I ain't gonna kill you, mate. I need a sprinkle, you onion.
Oh, right.
I'm gonna slash like a powerful horse.
Oh!
Coming out of me like a yellow cable.
Oh!
Oh, yeah.
For me, the best sound in the world is the sound of women speaking, irrespective of what they're speaking about. I don't really mind what the actual words are, I just enjoy the sound of it. And in fact, one thing that excites me is to tape women saying objectionable things and see if I still find it pleasant on some level. I have a collection of recordings of jingoistic speeches by Mrs. Thatcher and unpleasant pieces of religious extremism by Mary Kenny, the Daily Mail columnist. The only woman's voice that I don't enjoy is that of June Sarpong, the television presenter. But I don't consider that to be a human voice. I think that on some level, in the DNA, there must be an element of cat.
To help me sift through the best sounds, I met up with composer Howard Goodall.
What is the best sound to the human ear? What's the best note?
Well, I wouldn't say note, but there's definitely a best chord. And I think that the reason we sort of invented music is that we were imitating things in nature, sounds in nature that we liked and we wanted to imitate. One of the things that we liked in nature, in sound in nature, was repetition. So something that happens with a beat, like a wave lapping on a bank or on a beach, or something tapping against another piece of wood in the wind, or drops of water in a pool. And we liked the idea of this repetition, so I wanted to go for the whole rhythm idea, because it made a pattern out of what seemed to be the chaos of life. And the other thing is that if you dong something, like a piece of porcelain or a piece of wood or anything that's reverberant, it makes a note. But in fact, you're not hearing one note, you're hearing what's called the harmonic series of notes. You hear more than one note, because there are higher notes that are in there that we sort of hear in the mix. Rather like in a rainbow, you see lots of colours, but you actually only see, that's blue. In fact, it's a mixture. And the series that comes out of that note, say that's the bottom note, the bass note, you then get, these are the other notes you get, and it's always the same, by the way. Now that is the harmonic series.
Yeah.
Every time you hear one note, you're actually hearing all those in nature. So when we started getting into music and we started making chords, the first three notes of the harmonic series were the ones we went for. So that's a major chord.
Yeah.
And we feel,
is that the chord?
That's the chord that makes us feel in a good mood, because it comes from nature.
So there are sounds that can be found within nature that are literally music to our ears. But what are the foul noises from the natural world that make us reach for our earplugs?
Now, what I just did there was mime for you, blackboard and nails.
I can't say Liverpool people talking, can I?
Yes.
This is the life, eh?
Hey! Hey! Do you want to fight or something?
For me, it's the sound of people making love upstairs, because it's very frustrating. You know, by the time you've got your recording equipment out, they've stopped.
Upstairs, you say, not to the side?
No, that doesn't worry me.
A friend of mine was going out with this girl who was just a very kind of mousy little person. We were staying in someone's cottage, and when we all went to bed, they were in the room next door, and they started going at it. Oh! It was pathetic sounds as well. It wasn't like, yeah, come on, do it to me. That kind of thing, which I'd think, well, you're impressive. But no, it was like, oh.
You know, inconsolable weeping, where you can hear fluids as part of the noise is made up just by the internal facial movement of fluid.
Well, that's it then, is it? The old team on the scrap heap. It's all gone.
Gareth, come on. You're a soldier, aren't you? Eh? Yeah? Stiff upper lip and all that, eh? Spirit of the Dambusters, yeah? The squadron never dies, does it? Seen that film?
I've got a video.
Well then.
The sound I like least is the sea, which is always the same. Shh, shh, nearly always the same, the sea. What does it want? What is its problem? Like, shut up, you know, just occasionally shut up for a bit.
I asked Howard Goodall what he thinks are the most diabolical noises to the human ear.
Howard, what is your personal worst sound?
All through the 20th century, as music got, more experimental with discord, so you've got all these, all going on. They all seemed unpleasant, and therefore composers use them to conjure up frightening or disturbing images. But I don't know what will happen as time goes on and discords don't frighten us anymore. Because after all, in the Middle Ages, all sorts of things that we now hear as completely normal, that in the Middle Ages was considered really a discord.
Was it?
And
what is that?
Well, it's just a minor third. And this, which was called an augmented fourth, was called the devil in music. In fact, it was banned by the church. You literally couldn't have those two notes together. You get excommunicated for it. Because when you hear discords, the first thing your brain is trying to do is put it into order, give it pattern. We look at the stars and the heavens and you see squillions of little dots of light, and we find, oh look, there's a plough. We make a pattern out of them. We say, oh, that's the bear. Because it's more convenient for us to give things a pattern and an order.
Looking at the shortlist, the best sound in the world has to be something tinkling. Running water, the laughter of children, the twittering of birds. Birdsong can be pretty, but there are some birds that sound coarse and vulgar, like Vanessa Feltz. So, on the whole, the best sound in the world is the laughter of children, and preferably your own. But the worst sound is the discordant sound of a person mourning. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, weeping is the worst sound in the world. So, keep those children happy because their laughter is the best sound in the world. And stop crying because that's the worst noise. Like Willy Wonka and his chocolate factory, most things on the planet are edible. And if they're not, somebody along the way will have given them a go anyway. The land provides us with fruit and veg. From the sea we harvest fish. And the animal kingdom brings meat and dairy products to our table. But in the restaurant of the Almighty, what would you choose from the menu? And what would you send back to God's kitchen?
The potato is one of the things that makes me believe there might be a God in the idea of intelligent design. The potato contains everything that anyone needs to live. Vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin F, vitamin G, vitamin H.
A simple sandwich, you can't get a lot better than that. And I ate this is my
That's
heart.
cheese and onion.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Cheese, with onion, red onion, but left clustered together, like sort of crunchy steaks, you know, bits of it dribbling out, you know, mayonnaise and only half a sandwich, you know. The greatest food, God's greatest food, the greatest food in the world is just enough.
Oh.
Right, you. Want a word with you. You! Now, a word. Come on.
Well, it has to be garlic bread, because it's taken the nation by storm, hasn't it?
I go for carrot, because you can have it raw, you can have it cooked, and it looks quite funny, isn't it?
I think the best food has to be the good old traditional baked bean. It's versatile, it comes in a rich tomato sauce, it's full of protein and goodness. Baked beans in tomato sauce, yummy!
Do you know what sort of a bean it is?
No.
I think we're going to need another tin.
What's the worst food in the world?
Liver.
Kiwi fruit. God, I hate kiwi fruit.
Cooked salmon. I'd rather go and apply for housing benefit than eat that stuff.
My worst food in the whole world, the thing that like makes me, I feel creepy just thinking about it, is beetroot. I really hate beetroot. It's blood of the devil.
I think the best food is lobster. I think that is definitely the best food, and I like it because, again, there's no reason that we as kind of monkeys should ever get to eat a lobster, really. There's no match between those two worlds, and yet somehow we've ended up in the position where we can eat lobster, and it tastes really nice to us, and you kind of wonder why they did that.
That one.
With plenty of options on my plate, I went to meet a man who grows his own fruit and veg and raises animals for meat. Chef Hugh Fernley Whittingstall.
Hugh, in your view, what's the best food?
The best food is whatever you've caught, grown, raised yourself. It's whatever you've managed to get straight from the ground.
What's the best veg? I'm going to say the potato.
I'd go along with the potato, but again, if you grow them yourself, dig it up with a fork, just get the earth off it, and within a few minutes it's boiling away in a pan or baking in the oven. You get a taste, you get an earthy depth of flavour there that you don't get from your scrubbed up supermarket stuff.
I'm being goosed.
You are being very enthusiastically goosed. Now there's another fine food. I mean, compare the goose with a turkey.
Well, turkey, turkey for Christmas to me there's no comparison. It has to be a goose because a turkey is just a big dry old bird.
It is. It's a travesty. It's a big ball of tasteless, bland, cardboardy meat on a pair of legs that are barely able to support it and are too tough to chew.
I mean, what makes something a great delicacy is its rareness, or it's not the taste, is it?
No, because I think if mackerel was a rare fish, we would think it was the most wonderful of all fish, and we'd be falling over ourselves to get to a restaurant where they could serve fresh mackerel, and we'd be paying silly money for it. And it's changed over history, because oysters used to be a poor man's food, used to be very, very cheap, and so did salmon. So it is to do with scarcity and rarity, and if something's scarce, it makes us want it more, whatever it tastes like.
What about fruits?
Well, fruits are fascinating because they're an unusual kind of food in that they were absolutely designed to be eaten. Most things, plants or animals, don't really want to be eaten. Pig doesn't want to be eaten. But a fruit is ready, it wants to be eaten. It's got the seed inside it, it's done everything it's got to do. It wants you to eat it, spit out the pip or poo out the pip so it can form another tree. And that's a little miracle.
So it's made itself tasty.
It's made itself as delicious as it can possibly be, and you can't, I mean, it doesn't need anything. A perfectly ripe pear, there's nothing you could do to it to make it better than it is already. I mean, I suppose it's what the Garden of Eden was all about as well, wasn't it?
On the menu for best food are potatoes, the simple sandwich, carrot, baked beans and lobster. But it's the spud that takes the biscuit. Roast, boiled, baked, mashed, chipped, waffled, and let's not forget the crisp. The potato is the king. Yes, my friends, it's the spud that's the best food in the world. But, like a flavourless slice of damp cardboard, turkey is the worst food. Tradition has rendered taste redundant via this sinister bird, which only seems to exist to feed large families at Christmas. Buy 2 chickens instead. So, in the battle to be crowned God's best food, the King Edward is king. And the loser? The turkey. The human body is a truly mind-blowing and complex creation. An outstanding piece of engineering. Consider this. The brain produces more electrical impulses in one day than all the telephones in the world. The tooth is the only part of the body that can't repair itself, and the stomach has to produce a new layer of mucus every 2 weeks, otherwise it digests itself. But did God put the same amount of fine-tuning into all our bodily bits, or did he skip a few corners here and there? Is there one part of the human body that is better or worse than the others?
I'm very fond of my genitals.
The hand, I think, so useful.
The brain is the thing that makes us different from all the animals, really.
The brain is many things. It's a calculator, a dictionary, a battery, a camera, a TV and radio.
Well, as I'm suffering slightly as we speak, I'm going to say the anus.
I think the wonderful thing about the anus is there's a lot of false kudos given to snowflakes. You know, they start falling and people go, oh, they're great, aren't they? Every single one's different. You know, every anus is different. They're as different as snowflakes, but there are hundreds, thousands and millions of them, but God knows every individual one.
The bottom. Not because it's a fun word, bottom, bottom, bum, but because it's at that level in our being that provides us with so many things. The ability to bend over, cushion things, to sit down, release waste. It's a wonderful thing.
Does my bum look big in this?
A lot of people say, I like your beard, you know, I don't understand really, you know, you don't have a beard, you know, what you have is no beard, if you know what I mean. You know, hey, you've no beard, you know, I can't shave, you know, so I love hair. Hair's one of the best things.
You're wearing a wig. I am not. This is one of the worst wigs I've ever seen. It looks like a doormat. I'm not wearing a wig. You're the one who's wearing a wig. I deny that.
Breasts, probably, because they're really nice to look at and stuff.
One lady who believes that breasts are best is Leah Walker. Her mission in life has been to create the perfect chest. It's become an obsession that has driven her to create the biggest bosom in Britain.
Leah, what's the best part of the human body?
Breasts.
Why do you say that, though?
Because I think that they're a very sexual part of the human body.
People will think that you might be mad doing it, but I've been talking to you, and you are a very sane, and down-to-earth person, but what makes you want to do it?
I needed to change what was on the outside to what was on the inside. I didn't look like what I wanted to look like on, you know, on the inside.
So it's making you feel better
Oh
within
God,
yourself?
yeah, totally.
Is it like a self-competition?
No, I just like big boobs. I always have done since I was little. And
What, looking at them on other women?
yeah, do you know when you're little and you grow up and you just watch things like Benny Hill, and you know, obviously because I've got 3 brothers and my dad and that, and they look at the sun all the time, and they used to, you know, in the 70s, that's all, you know, women were. They were just, you know, big busted blondes, and that's just, you know, I admired that, you know, Dolly Parton. I love Dolly Parton.
Are you ever tempted to put an array of biros in there so it looks like the fin of a stegosaurus?
I know, that would be fantastic. No, but I usually put like my drink in there.
Do you?
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Oh yeah, no, rest my cup of tea on there when I'm watching telly. Oh yeah.
The human body is an amazing creation, but as the human race has developed, are there any body parts that are surplus to requirements? What's the worst bit of our bodies?
The worst part of the human body to me, well, it's not the worst, but it's just the most unexplainable, are men's nipples. I have no idea what they're for.
The hairs on the arse. I mean, hairs in the nostrils, fair enough, like filter the air as it goes in, that makes sense. Why do you want to filter anything on the way out? You just want it out, don't you? I do.
Ears may be the worst body part because they're so stupid, aren't they? I mean, they look like someone just stuck them on. I mean, you never say about... you'd say of a woman, what a beautiful nose and lips of chicken. You wouldn't say, what lovely ears she's got. Gorgeous pair of ears.
I mean, they've let me down so much, and they're so useful. I mean, every part of your body is useful. I'm not that keen on teeth. Do you know, at the end of the day, I'm not that keen on teeth.
Well, you've got this. I used to have the same dentist as you've got, and he told me that it's pointless having nerves in your teeth.
Well, so there you are. I'm quite pleased with my choice then.
Don't be silly, Shirley. You know your father can't eat apples with his dentures.
It's not so easy, is it? And yet you're advising your family to have their teeth out.
The worst body part, in my opinion, is the scrotum. It looks like a kind of PE kit that's been left in the showers or something and mould's grown on it. It should be made of gold and have jewels on it and, you know, have some kind of protective thing around it that would stop you getting kicked and hurt.
There's clearly room for improvement with the human body. I went to meet a man who knows it inside out. Controversial anatomist Gunther von Hagens is already thinking about how he can improve the body's design.
What's the worst part of the human body?
There's really no worst part. I would just spontaneously say the genitals, but when they would not function, we would not be here. But they are worst in its design because they are always at risk. In soccer play, you know, the poor guys, they cannot look for the ball in the penalty. They have to protect their private parts. So what I am looking for, therefore, is a kind of retractable penis, retractable testicles.
So they should be retractable. This is what I've been saying all along.
Much better, you know.
What would you say then, in, let's say, a million years' time, how would the human body develop?
For the future, I'm convinced that we humans will redesign our body by genetic engineering.
Yeah.
And I've put in a lot of thoughts what we could do better. And there are a number of things we could do better. For example, we have this problem of the crossing of the airway and the foodway. So why not have a pipe like the whale up here and we can breathe more easily?
So when these, as humans, have developed into these superhumans, will apes have then developed to the stage of humans now?
I believe we will also make a genetic engineering in the animals. Then you can talk with your dog, you know, you will have some animals which like to work for you, for clean, for the apes, for example, that they may read books for you. It is, well, everything is possible.
The best part of the human body has been narrowed down to the brain, the anus, and the buttocks for their usefulness, hair for its versatility, and breasts. Without the brain, we wouldn't exist. We wouldn't be able to think, smell, see, or touch. In fact, everything in this programme would be redundant. The nominations for the worst bodily part are as follows: men's nipples, for being pointless; the hairs on one's arse, for being equally as useless; teeth, for causing so many painful problems; ears; and men's genitals, for being unsightly. And I agree with Gunther von Hagen that yes, men's genitals should be made retractable at the earliest possible opportunity. So, in the battle of the body parts, it's the brain who has emerged triumphant, and hanging its head in shame is our loser, men's genitals. So, that concludes my journey through the best and the worst of God's creations. The time has now come for me to deliver my final verdict, to choose one single item from the planet that I hold to be the greatest and one that I deem to be the most terrible. But before I make my final announcement, let's have a quick recap of the contenders for tonight's ultimate accolade. Coming in at number 5, it's the most boring meat known to man, the turkey. And at number 4, it's those design disasters, men's genitals. My third worst thing in the world is the sad sound of weeping. The runner-up in God's most terrible inventions is childbirth, which means that my worst thing in the world ever is the human brain. Having a brain means we can see, smell, hear, and do some of the most disgusting things in the world. All the bad information we receive comes through the brain, and for this reason, it is God's worst creation. So, what are God's greatest creations? Well, at number 5, it's the sweet sound of children laughing. And at number 4, it's nature's greatest food, the potato. Coming in at number 3, it's the feeling you get when you fall in love. Just missing out on the top spot, it's the king of the animal world, man, which means that God's best creation is the human brain. The brain can be used for evil or for good. The best sounds, smells, and events are all experienced through the various canals of the brain. It belongs to us, but it controls us. It brings us pleasure, and yet we misuse it constantly. Let's treat the brain with the respect it deserves and start campaigning for a national, nay, universal, Brain Day.
Rob Brydon knows how to use his brain, starring in new pedigree comedy for BBC Two as a space scientist. Supernova starts this Tuesday at 9. There's more on that in a moment. That's here on BBC Two, and we've highlights also next at the Snooker Grand Prix. And on BBC Three, film drama starring George Clooney and Nicole Kidman. The Peacemaker is just starting.